threats on his life and assassination attempts. But let's talk about what else he's saying that may be engaging people to want to do that.
Well, you know, that's the natural segue, because I'm not saying that all the attempts have been done by, intelligence, Secret Service people, though a number of them they know have. The CIA and Swiss military shared a base right literally up the road from Meyer's home. That base is still there. It's a military.
But don't they come to him also for guidance and counsel?
Yeah, well, now that the years have passed and, some of the things changed. Listen, there are people, first of all, yes, in answer to that. And another thing is that there are skeptics and there are, religious people who, just as per what you were talking about, can't take the information, and we'll talk about why. But one skeptic, I guess it's about 9 or 10 years ago now, he and his wife who lived in the area, had considered that Meyer must be in league with the devil and crazy and all the rest. And this particular man went outside one day. For some reason, he had his camera to photograph some things, and Meyer gets a letter a few days, later, maybe it's a week or two, whatever. And the letter says, "Dear Herr Meyer, I am so-and-so. Please don't mention my name to anybody. If my wife finds out that I'm writing to you, I'm going to have a lot of trouble at home, and we have considered you to be, a crazy person, etc. But please, enclosed, please find the photographs that I have taken of the UFOs that are visiting you, and may I come and visit you too?" And so he became a friend of his, and then Meyer's very open. He will speak to, at least up until some years ago. Now he just doesn't have time for it at all, and he's older, and he's still got a lot of work to do. But he would let people come, and he would talk to them and answer questions, and but the reason that you're talking about, what you're alluding to here, why this might be so upsetting, is that basically information in this case would threaten to overturn the foundation of all the world's religions as step one, and that's not something that billions of people are just quite ready for yet.
Maybe what it is also, Michael, is that there are people who could receive the information that there's extraterrestrial life civilizations going on, as long as you don't take away their relationship with God. And so some people don't know how to love God or love a supreme creator, an intelligent creator, right? And accept this information. And then there are people that accept this information, and for some reason they also accept that there is a supreme intelligence running everything. And that's kind of where I'm at. I believe in God. I come from a spiritual tradition, not a religious tradition. I'm aware of the religious traditions of the world pretty deeply. I'm an anthropology background major, but hearing this information doesn't threaten my relationship to God or to a creator.
Right. Well, this is where some of the most absolutely important and, volatile, controversial information in the case is to be found, and it's part of the core of this. And I'll try to explain it as best I can. But I don't want to sugarcoat it, and I don't want to drag it out unnecessarily, so I'll get to kind of the chase. When Meyer asked them, these people, about, well, do you have God in your world and all like we do? And they said, well, we don't use that term because we know what it means. And he says, well, what is that supposed to mean? He said, in every case, when you're talking about, a deity, short of the most primitive of religions where they're simply nature worshipers or something like that, where you have some form of deity that's recognized, you're talking about extraterrestrials who were here thousands of years ago, representing themselves as the creator of this universe, of all life, et cetera, and who set in motion the current religions that you have on your world, and that this is one of the most problematic things that has to be dealt with, because they so misled human beings, who then scooped it all up and embraced it and formalized and turned things into religions and excised where the truthful teaching was brought by extraterrestrials or was delivered to prophets in the past who were to disseminate it among the earth people. That teaching, that information was always co-opted and corrupted and put under the control of a religion, a church, a belief system, a cult, or what have you. And so he said, well, then you mean there is no God? And they said, again, the extraterrestrial beings, those were the lords. That was, I am your God and all that. However, they said, this universe itself, they call it the creation, is the conscious intelligence and embodiment of its own conscious intelligence. It is the, if you will, the creator, sustainer of all that exists within this universe, since there are countless billions. If you want to throw another stone on the water here, have intersecting ripples.
Before we intersect those ripples, I'll let you finish, but I want to go back to something you just said.
Okay, do you want to tell me what that is, or should I?
Yeah, I just want to say to you that what's interesting to me is that I was not born in a religious family. My family came from the Jewish tradition. We celebrated all the Jewish holidays. And I've sat with Thich Nhat Hanh, I've sat with Buddhists, I've sat with Hindus, I've sat with masters from China, from every area of the world. The interesting thing is about 2 years ago, I met someone who did something called super prayers. And I was like, what's that? And I had a dear friend of mine who had a torn rotator cuff in 3 places and was due for surgery within a few weeks. And I brought her to this person. And I said, you have nothing to lose. I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't understand anything about it. I've never heard anything like this. And anything I've read has been religious-oriented, so it's turned me off, and I never believed in it. But try it. Who cares? You have nothing to lose except going in for surgery. She went in, spent the evening in this church, and this woman did this prayer. And within a minute, she could move her arms. She had full range of motion. She wasn't a believer. She wasn't a religious person,
Right.
but she had a mustard seed of faith. So I guess what I want to say to you in context is there are wonderful things about Bible 1 and Bible 2 in context. There are wonderful seeds in there of things that work. We may not know how they work. They're mysterious, having to do with the sacred. Also true in Buddhism, also true in other religious denominations. But I will tell you, I was stunned that it worked. So I'm a big believer in prayer, and I believe in miracles because I've been witness to something that defied all of science. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. Well, let me address that and tell you that there's similarities between your background and mine. I was not raised religiously. Both sides of my family, my mother and my father and his family. My mother was an orphan, but they both escaped from the Nazis in Europe. My mother had also escaped the communists as a little girl, you know. And there was a Jewish background in my father's family and some in my mother's family. But I was not raised with any religion. And when about 10 years of old, I said to my mother, I want to know the truth about God and Jesus. And she said, well, I think God is love as far as I'm concerned, and the rest you'll have to find out for yourself. So I didn't come from any particular slant. I just simply wanted to know what was true. Now, let's address what you were just talking about. This is part of what's in the Meyer case to a large degree. And Meyer had said something some years back, published and in a document, I'm trying to remember which one, but it doesn't matter. And it was, when the people of the earth know the secret sciences, when they are available to the people of this world, all religions will crumble instantly. And what that means is that within the true spiritual teaching, including the teaching that was originally brought by Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and
Right.
all that, there was the knowledge of how the power of thought and the mind worked, how consciousness affects and creates things, the laws of cause and effect. So let's jump just a little bit, because your story about somebody having that type of healing, and I've been involved in the healing arts for 35 years. I'm not unfamiliar with all sorts of different things, but let's just offer a possibility here. And the possibility is that if it's true that the power of thought and even the power of collective directed thought doesn't always produce a startling or stunning result, that would mean that human beings are far more powerful than any religion wants them to believe that they are. So let's take it one more radical step. If we think that the prayers are going to some deity that's picking and choosing which prayers will be answered, because goodness knows the people in Iraq and Afghanistan and Rwanda, and you start naming it, including here in this country, that have over time billions and billions of people who've been cranking out prayers to, the waiter in the sky. How